Three, two, one, go. Welcome to another installment of the Cool Kids Table podcast. My guest today is Francisco X Rivera. You've seen him everywhere, Fox Sports, the in Spanish. He is a commentator for the Chargers. He's done the Lakers. He's done the Clippers, but many of you will know him as being the youngest Spanish broadcaster in a World Series game on Spanish television. Uh, he did the World Series in 2012. His credentials speak for themselves. He was named one of the 35 most, what's it called? He's already in here. Cool. Let's just jump in and let's hear him say it in his own words. Okay. Francisco, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's loud and clear. No staticky, no nothing.
All good.
Okay, so I was just giving them a brief introduction on you. So my guest today is Francisco X Rivera. Why don't you say hello, Francisco?
Hey guys, Hector, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be sharing some stories today with you guys, and once again sending everyone a huge hug, best wishes, and just be patient, stay safe, and I'm sure we'll get through this.
Hey man, that's a great way to start it. So as you were coming in, I was just letting the audience know that you were chosen by the Hollywood Reporter as being one of the top 35 under 35 Latinos in entertainment in 2012. So I think we could go from there, or we could do. I was letting them also know you were the youngest Spanish broadcaster for a World Series game. So either of those, I'm okay with. What do you want to talk about? Let me see what's on your mind.
Well, both of those achievements came back in 2012, and that was a great year for me. I think that things that will always be on my mind. The Hollywood Reporter thing came unexpectedly because they are, I guess, picky with who they choose, and um, obviously, I want to thank the people at Fox Deportes back then for referring me and putting me out there on the map to them. Our publicist did a tremendous job in pitching me as part of that great roster. I mean, you had people like Zoe Saldana. I think Diego Boneta was there. I mean, so many great celebrities there, and just to be part of that list was just amazing for me. I mean, it will always give me bragging rights.
Yeah.
Actually, a very famous Latina was on the cover of that Hollywood Reporter magazine, Sofia Vergara, and the Modern
Wow.
Family team. So, it was for me just being part. I mean, there's a small paragraph talking about me as call me the sports knight. I'll be happy to send you a screenshot once. I mean, I'll find the magazine, and it talks about me about being actually the only sports broadcaster mentioned in the Hollywood Reporter then. So yeah, it was amazing to me. I just missed the party. I didn't go. But at the same time, just being able to be mentioned in that category amongst some of not only peers but other people that I look up to was just incredible. So then again, it will give me bragging rights for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. And I'm familiar with you. I've seen you on TV. I've guess a fan, right? We support each other.
Thank
We
you.
support these
Thank you.
people, and
Appreciate it.
look like us, talk like us, and then it's incredible. And myself, being an athlete when I was younger, you dream of being the baseball player. You dream of being on the field. And then as I got older, I got into journalism for a little bit, right? So I see that aspect, and I had it wasn't a great blog, but it had a decent following for the time. And it was one of those things where I transitioned to like, oh, maybe I could write about sports and talk about sports. And this kind of came about because I always thought about doing like a sports center, in my own words, nightly kind of thing. So seeing somebody like yourself go out there and do it is like, to me, is like, one, not only is that awesome, but two, I feel like you could give some, not pointers, I don't want to say, oh, do this, do that kind of thing, but just kind of, you see the raza, you talk to the raza and be able to like let them know, hey, our people can do this too. We could be on TV and talk about sports. Like um one of the things I know about you, hockey and Spanish, like that's incredible, because the Latino community is not that involved in hockey. So if we were to expand that, we have great athletes, and a lot of them are multi-sports athletes. So if you were to like let people know like, hey, you're a great soccer player, you're a great football player, but you could also do hockey. In Southern California of all places, it's not that common. It's more of a cold weather sport, but just these things that I feel like people like yourself putting it out there on the map kind of helps everybody, rise up together. You bring up the community with you.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and I thank you for your praise. And you know what? Going back to 2012, right? So then again, I get promoted by Fox Deportes, and then Hollywood Reporter, obviously pays attention to me. They include in their magazine, and then a little bit later, October 2012, that's when Fox gave me the great opportunity of calling the games. I had been a reporter for them since 2006 in the World Series, calling regular season and playoff games. But this was the very first time I actually got to call the whole World Series for myself. Unfortunately, Detroit did not put up too much resistance against the Giants, so it was a
Yeah,
short series. I
I
actually took
remember.
my family to Detroit. It was my dad, my wife, and a friend of my dad's. We had
Oh,
tickets
cool.
for all three games, but unfortunately had to get a refund for the last game because it actually never happened. It was a
Yeah.
short series, but it was a time in my life, not only because then again I got to do it, and I got to do it at a fairly young age when I was 30 years old. But at the same time, my family has been a great part of my life so far. Was able to be there with me, so that's irreplaceable. That's something that will never leave my mind. That's actually my biggest memory, because it's not about the money, it's not about the moment, it's about sharing with familia. And about talking about La Raza. Well, us Latinos, like I was born in Mexico City, right? And I know I cannot tell you like, oh, I identify myself as Mexican American, even though I live here for half of my life. But each one of us is different, right? You're born in a different country, you come from different backgrounds, but one thing that unites us as Latinos is family, right? And for me,
Yes,
being
sir.
able to cherish those moments with my familia, make me very, very proud and very, very humble about those opportunities. So when that happened, I started getting more notoriety amongst not only my peers, but one thing that helped me, I actually, when I started in this business, I was a junior at Long Beach State, and I started, with an internship at Fox Sports Net on the English side of things, doing production. So I met a lot of people, and that's how, I was not only known on the Spanish side of things, but only, but just pretty much everywhere. And then, I start picking up more achievements along the road. And then in 2013, I was very fortunate to be chosen by Fox Network as their main reporter for all their soccer coverage, as they bought the English rights to the next two World Cups and then all the CONCACAF events. So I was very fortunate to be able to cross over in 2013. So as I said, 2012 was a very special year for myself, and then 2013 followed with a bang. I'm able to cross over and become the first Mexican broadcaster on the Fox network, which made me very proud of just accomplishing that. So with that said, the last 7 years of my life, I've been able to not only trying to self promote and promote my name, but at the same time try to be an example and try to be a role model to the community. I've been very fortunate to achieve many different things in my life, but at this time, I think I want to leave a legacy. I really, yeah, obviously you want to get paid well, you want to make some money, but at the same time, I really want to leave a legacy. So you mentioned hockey, and I was very fortunate, thanks to many people within the Kings organization, to be able to reinvent myself. So this season, I actually started working as a consultant for the Kings. It was the first time that I didn't make any money, or I didn't make my money through broadcasting. I started basically guiding their strategy when it comes to catering to the Latino community. Bringing celebrities that I know into games. Uh, Build relationships with companies, with other influencers, attend community events, create bilingual content, just too many different things encompassing that. Then I was also made part of their advisory board, which it's a group of about 30 people from very famous backgrounds, from Hollywood producers to rock stars to actors, from CEOs to companies. Anyway, that's one of the things that was also very humbling for me, being able to hang out and share moments with these great people. because they're not only very accomplished, but they're also great as just individuals themselves. So, I've tried to reinvent myself and try to leave a legacy to produce new things, being able to, as I said before, become a role model for the community. And I mean, there's too many things that I can tell you, but one of the ones that come to my mind, before Long Beach State, I went to El Camino College for 3 years. And this is one of the first times that people will hear about this, but I was actually named El Camino's commencement speaker for this year. And
Congrats.
it won't thank you, but it won't happen
Yeah,
because they
unfortunately.
won't have a
Yeah.
real graduation.
Yeah. But still
Hopefully
the
it will happen
accomplishment is
next
still
year.
there.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. But let me tell you something. I mean, part of what my speech was going to be, was around along the lines of, hey, if I did it, you guys can do it. If I came to this country as an immigrant, I was able to, come as an international student and find my way through school and pay my way through school and everything. You guys can do it. I mean, it might be a dream, but just make it a reality. And that's really what I wanna do. And just I want to make sure that everything I do from now on, yeah, of course, as I said, I want to get paid, but at the same time, I want to make sure these things that I'm doing are leaving a legacy and they're setting an example for people that are coming after me, and so they can believe that they can actually do it. And yeah, it's great to become an example for La Raza and for Latinos. That's great, but at the same time, just any kid that wants to follow a passion or a dream, just so I can be that example, or someone that can be of any help or support.
That's beautiful said. You sound incredibly humble. Um, and what about your journey? I came here illegally too. I was by being brought over here as a child. So the audience knows that story. So I rather hear touch up on yours. Like, how did it go about? Like, if you don't mind, if it's not too personal, like what age did you come here? How was it transitioning into, to school and to a different type of livelihood? Because a lot of people don't realize that it's a new culture. You might speak the language, but you're in a new area. You probably, I can't speak for you personally, but a lot of people come, they don't have friends. And sometimes they leave their family behind. They're by themselves most of the time, or it's either with a group of a few of them. How was it for you if it's not something too personal?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey because, going back to my family, my grandpa came here in the 60s, right? And he had uh, six daughters and sons. It was six total, right? My dad was the youngest of them all. And half of them came here to this country and followed my grandpa. My dad was part of the other half. My dad, we did okay financially. I could say we were sort of upper middle class, despite the fact that my grandma was left alone with six kids in Mexico, and between her and the oldest of my uncles were able to get past those obstacles. And it's not easy to come from humble beginnings and be able to do something. And I'm very proud of my uncle who went to medical school and graduated, became a doctor, and all of a sudden our family's fate started changing, right? So I'm very proud to say my family came from nothing, and then we have become something. And this is, a parenthesis, but my uncle had a daughter who eventually became the most famous actress in Latin America, and then the first lady of Mexico. I don't know
Oh,
if you watch
wow.
novelas at all, but Angelica Rivera, who's my cousin, is my biggest role model. And that
Wow.
actually came, as I said, from my grandma trying to get past these obstacles of being a single mom, and with six kids, right? With my grandpa coming to this country, and then my uncle, setting that path for us, and then my cousin being able to, being, by far the most accomplished person in the family, right? So, as I said, I'm very proud to say that yeah, we might have a lot, or actually I grew up comfortably, but at the same time, it's not because we inherited. It's because my grandma and then my uncles and my dad really busted their butts to get through in life, right? So my grandpa comes to this country. My dad decided to stay, but he actually liked coming here to visit his brothers, right, in the 70s and during the 80s. And then my dad started, he always loved baseball. He was a very good baseball player himself in Mexico. So he used to come, and my house was all decorated with Dodger stuff, right? And we knew some people in the business, so my dad was able to meet people like Roy Campanella and Nolan
Wow.
Ryan and Fernando Valenzuela when he came. He
Nice.
was I wouldn't say like a huge friend of my uncle's, but they knew each other. My uncle was one of my uncles was an ophthalmologist, and he used to give Fernando sunglasses when he came, and then Fernando would give him tickets in exchange, right? So that sports and baseball culture was always around my house. I did not start really liking or get into baseball until 1992, and then I became such a huge Dodger fan that it basically my life revolved around baseball, right? Around sports in general, but around baseball mostly. So years kept on passing by, and I started coming on vacation, staying here with my cousins, going to Dodger Stadium, and I really enjoyed the lifestyle. And I thought, well, I really like baseball. I was an okay player, obviously not as good to have become professional. Maybe had I really put my heart into it, maybe college. Like I went to Long Beach State, and I'm jealous I didn't play there, right?
Yeah, great
They
school
they've
for
had so
baseball.
many great teams. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my point was, when I turned 17, I was like, I really want to move to the US. So one of my cousins said, okay, I'll help you, I'll sponsor you, you can stay with me, I'll take care of whatever you need. And then obviously my dad's sending some money for me to get by, right? By that time, I'm talking about 1999, MLS had been around for 3 years. So I thought, well, I really don't have any connections when it comes to soccer here in Mexico, so I'm going to give it a try, go to high school for my last year in the US, and then try to get a scholarship for soccer, go to school, get drafted, maybe go into MLS. Who knows, right? So I saw, like, my head, it was all clear. At the same time, I also wanted to be a broadcaster, because every time since I had my very first Nintendo sports games, I really wanted to. I called my own games, and even playing on my own, I had my imaginary booth and everything. So I knew my life was going to go, and you have to do something around sports. So I came to the U.S. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hacienda Heights area,
Yes,
but I
sir.
went to school at
Oh,
Wilson High
cool.
School. I lived just a few steps
Right off the
away from the
60.
school.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. You can actually see a big W right
Hmm.
off the Azusa exit. So stayed there with my cousin, and for me, it was going to be easy, right? I'm this very good soccer player, coming here, staying with family. It's going to be all good. I actually started pretty well, and people started noticing that I was a very talented player. I One of the anecdotes that I always like to tell, like, the principal calls me to the office first few weeks of school year. I'm like, crap. I like, in Mexico, it's a troublemaker, right? Because I've always been the funny guy, the guy that like to entertain other people, and then I guess hence I'm doing this is what I'm doing, right? Entertaining on TV, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I do? I'm not getting into trouble. I barely have any friends here. I'm adapting to a new culture. So he calls me in. I'm like, well, what can I do for you, sir? And he's like, well, Francisco, I've really heard good things about you. I heard you're really, really good and talented soccer player. I want you to help us win championships. And, because at the time, Los Altos was always kicking our butts in every sport, right? So, he comes to me with this sort of, I'm not going to say like praise, I guess. And I'm like, wow, that really motivated me. But that also grew my head at the same time, right? Made it just even bigger. My ego has always been one of my biggest enemies. And at the time, I became so big headed that going into training, I didn't talk to other people. Like, one of the other things that I remember, my first practice, they were like, rookies carry the goals. And people were looking at me as if I was going to carry everything and paint the lines and whatnot. And I'm like, guys, I'm a senior here and I'm the best player in the team. I'm not carrying any goals, and to me, I did not understand. It was a culture shock too, because to them, being a rookie was being a first time player in the team, not necessarily like a sophomore or a freshman. Right. But I didn't
Yeah.
understand it that way. Like, when it was time to jog during practice, I didn't do it right. Like, I only wanted to have something to do with playing, doing well, and whatnot. But I was not a team player, and that was really tough on me, because I eventually quit the team because I missed 1 week of practice for personal reasons, and the coach put me on the bench. Came in the second half, I wasn't comfortable, and I told him, if I'm gonna pay $100 for my Adidas uniform, and you're gonna put me on games every single minute, I'm out. So then I left, started playing baseball for a little bit, and then it was just too much, and I quit school, and I went back to Mexico City. It was cold. The culture shock was just too much, and I was very, very, as I said, my head was very big at the time. So I was not ready to come into this country. In Mexico, you can be a big shot, but you come here and you realize that there's so many people that are equally talented, and you're gonna have to struggle to get to where you want to be. So that didn't really work out for me that well. And a lot of people might say, yeah, I crossed the border, I had to swim, had to struggle, run away from border patrol. I'm not gonna tell you my life was as tragic as that, but my drama was then again not being able to adapt to a new culture. So I went back to Mexico. I finished school there, but by the time I got into a new passion, which was music, I knew how to play the drums a little bit. I was the lead singer in a band, but then that semester that I took off helped me learn how to play guitar. And all of a sudden, I sort of forgot about sports, and I said, screw it, I'm going to music, and I started just playing music. Finished high school, I was ready to come back. I came back. I was able, because of my cousin sponsoring me, I was able to get a student visa. Went to El Camino College. The catch with it was that since the visa was actually processed here, I could not leave the country. So once I moved here for good in 2002, I wasn't able to move back, or actually to even visit until 2009. So I was
Wow.
here for 7 years without being able to leave the country.
So your family.
But yeah, my dad was always coming back and forth, and as I said, I had a lot of family here. So that's really how it went for me. It was, as I said, it was not as tragic as many other paths that people might be able to relate to, but at the same time it was tough. One of the things that I can tell you, getting I was like, I knew I was not going to get any help being an international student, so I always wanted to do more. Like, I was able to find out how can I get loans to go to school, because for me, like, you can say, El Camino College, for anyone, you pay, I think you used to pay $15 per unit. For me, it was $200 per unit. So once you go full time to El Camino College, you're paying the thousands. Long Beach State, people would pay like $1,000, like a California resident. I used to pay like $6,000 a semester for an international student. So I really had to find my way to pay through school, get a social security number to work in school, and then find a way to work in my career through school. So these little things that people don't really know about. And when you come into this country, obviously, people don't want you to know shortcuts, right? Because they don't want more immigrants coming into the country. But I was able to find these shortcuts for myself. Like, I can tell you, getting a social security number for me was hell, because the way I did it, I requested to work at Long Beach State. I think it was within the bookstore. It was an accounting job, right? It's just helping out with numbers, whatever, nothing too fancy. So they said, yeah, you can work here. And so you can make some extra money part-time during school year. And then during vacation, you can come and work full-time for us. So they helped me get my social security number. But at the same time, the social security office in Long Beach was always giving me trouble. So it took me actually 6 visits to finally get my number. And this might look or might sound crazy to you, but it's, you would never in the world would you think that you would have phone communication with someone from the social security office, right? And people inside the office felt so bad for me that I couldn't get my number, that would call me directly on my cell phone, be like, Francisco, we feel bad for you, but you're missing this paper now. Can you ask your school for this or this proof or that? And it was really weird to me. But even the security guards at the office would always say hi to me by first name. They already knew who I was.
Oh.
I was spending more time there than at school, right? So, then again, even though you might think that my path was not so tragic, I really feel proud of everything that I accomplished, because I could tell you that everything that I have until now, yeah, I've had a lot of family and all friends helping me along the way, a lot of great people at work, but I've really, really pushed hard to be able to become someone in this country as an immigrant. And I feel very proud of my heritage, but at the same time, I feel really, really proud of being an American now. I swore my citizenship back in 2016. I have a passport now. So I am really, really thankful to this country that has given me and my family so much.
That's beautiful, man. That's great. I'm glad you said it, in your words, because one thing, I could tell right off the bat is you're not a quitter. You don't give up. You don't take the easy route. You go through it. You do it. Yeah, and there's hiccups. Everybody has hiccups. You said the culture shock going back to Mexico. The story didn't end there, right? It could have just ended, gone to Mexico and done something else. But no, you kept striving
Yeah.
for success and you kept pushing. So don't don't take it too lightly, that your story wasn't as tragic. Everybody has their own story, everybody has their own journey. Yours doesn't sound easy by any means. So, I'm glad that you kept pushing and that you were able to achieve the success that you've reached and that will continue to reach.
One of the best stories that I could tell you. I don't know if this is off the record, but I'm going to tell it because it's true. You're a baseball guy, so you might remember Alfonso Marquez, the umpire.
Yes.
He was
That's
actually in the World
crazy.
Series a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alfonso, we're doing an interview with him during the 2011 World Series. We got to his hotel room and he gave us all the access. He was so nice, and which is weird because with umpires, they never give out interviews, right?
More
They
laid
never.
back.
Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
to
Never in the
themselves.
public.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that makes sense because you don't want people, basically busting their balls for something for a call or something like that. So it's understandable. Alfonso was so nice, and he's from Zacatecas, I think. So him and my colleagues, I had a producer with me and a camera guy. Um, they are talking about their journeys here, and all of them, about the way they came into this country and their stories. Man, we're hardcore, right? And so they're all talking, right? And then Alfonso turns to me and in Spanish he tells me, "So Francisco, tell me, so how do you cross the border exactly?" And I felt so bad, like I felt privileged, and I felt so bad because I didn't have a tragic story to tell, right? But then again, as I said, it's not about how you come into the country, but it's about what you do here and how you become a valued member of the society. And I can tell you, like, a lot of people feel so bad and felt so bad when our current president, said what he had to say before he won the elections, which to me was a lot of rhetoric. And I don't really want to get into politics. It's not my thing. But at the same time, I didn't feel. I'm not gonna say I felt offended, just because I knew in my case it was not true, and I knew that I had become a valued member of society. So if ever someone ever wanted to question my moral fiber and my values and what I've done to contribute coming to this country, I have a resume that speaks for itself. So, it's been very humbling, and at the same time, I feel very proud of having become, an American that has contributed in so many ways to this country.
I mean, yeah, like you said, your resume speaks for itself. So, I mean, not to make it a political one, but yeah, some things were said, and that's a great thing. There's people like you where you can point to, and your story and be like, no, look, the criminal where, the drug dealer
Yeah,
where, the murderer where. Look, he's on TV. He's reporting the sports that you're watching. He's just doing it in Spanish or now in English, and
right,
so that's what I mean as like role model. Sometimes kids don't know the role models until they get older. Like when you start seeing like, oh man, why did you want to be like Jaime Jarrin? You didn't know you wanted to be like Jaime Jarrin. Even though
mhm,
Vince Scully is like quote unquote the GOAT, we had Jaime Jarrin because what he spoke our language, he looked like us. So
sure,
myself personally, like as I got older, I was like, we had our own Vince Scully, like, which is crazy that the Dodgers
right,
were so lucky and fortunate to have the two best of their time at their peak, one in
sure,
English, one in Spanish. And yet I was a huge Vince Scully fan, still am, right? And Jaime Jarrin, I never really gave him the time of day because, as I learned the language and I started watching TV in English, like I just would watch the games in English. But then now, like, not say today, but, in my younger 20s, I would reflect and be like, dude, we had Jaime Jarrin,
right.
like that was
Well,
our.
I had Jaime myself. I mean, we had games on radio in Mexico until 1996. So I used to stay up because in Mexico games would start at 9 p.m. Right?
Mm,
So 2 hour
time difference,
difference.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would stay up as late as I could to listen to the game while in junior high, right? So I didn't get Vince Scully until I started coming on vacation here to 1995. I mean, right away the silky voice, all the stats and the stories, and that's like I consider myself a storyteller when I'm calling games, right? Like I want to know those stories, so that's why I adopted that kind of style in which I try to bring stories together and find common ground between players and anecdotes, things like that. So right away, obviously, I noticed that Vince Scully was that voice, that kind of broadcaster. But to me, I mean, Jaime Jarrin was the first guy that really listened to it when I was, trying to or getting into the Dodger culture. And now that I think I've become a friend of the family, and I've shared microphones with Jaime a few times. That it's been a very humbling experience. So as you said, it's just trying to find that role model, that person that you want to just model your life, after. And I think, as you said, this organization having two Hall of Fame broadcasters at the same time, it's quite an accomplishment.
I mean, and for you, I mean, I just the behind the scenes, the stories, the tips, the hey Rook, kind of thing. That just sounds like a book of an in of itself. Just the stories you could talk about with Jaime. That sounds
Yeah.
really like a
Yeah, because he was very supportive to me when I started going to Dodger Stadium when I was writing for a small newspaper here in LA, and he was always very supportive. He knew who I was, but I think people could notice that I was a go-getter, that I was always hustling and try to do something. And then actually, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit too to another voice of the LA Dodgers, Pepe Iniguez,
okay.
who's called Games with Jaime for a long
Yeah,
time. Pepe was actually the guy who helped me get into Fox Sports en Español, which became Fox Deportes. So, those guys knew then again that I don't know if they knew if I was talented or not, but they knew that I really wanted it, right? I wanted to do what they did. So Pepper really helped me a lot. I mean, even though I can tell you, I've become, I think, a friend of Jaime's family. At the same time, I consider Pepe a huge friend, a huge influence in my life because I mean, he was the guy that put me in touch with the people that I needed to talk to, right? So I mean, there's just so many people in the Dodger organization, but yeah, just being able to I don't know if I pick their brain much. I am, as I said, I have a big ego. I am very proud. So I don't know. I try to do things for myself and by myself. I'm very proud that way. So I don't try not to pick people's brains about how they do things. I'd rather actually pick up those tips myself. But sharing the stories. Like I recently got nominated for a Southern California Sports Broadcasters Award, and I went against Jaime, and I lost. But I felt like I lost to Jaime Harin. I lost against the best in the country, so it's not bad. I'm not gonna feel bad about it, right? So we're laughing about it, and
yeah,
I'm telling him stories of when I used to, like, he has a say. Um, Ya estoy viendo las casitas en mi pueblo. Like, I'm seeing the houses far away, which for him meant I already know that the game's already been decided, right? And this takes me back to the NLDS in 1995 when the Dodgers were swept by the Reds, and I remember listening to my friend, to the game at my friend's house. And I remember Jaime saying that. Ya estoy viendo las casitas en mi pueblo, amigos. Like, the Dodgers were losing like 10-1 to the Reds, and they were swept. And I remember telling him that story, and we were just laughing about it. So then again, it's not only about really the tips or the rookie recommendations, but it's about the stories that you can share with people because you actually live them somehow, right? He was calling the game, I was listening to the game, so technically I was part of it too,
yeah.
in my
That's
own little way.
and real quick, a lot of time with the awards, it's just about domination. Like like you said, he won, but it's like I don't have to win. I'm just glad to be part of the conversation. Like
Sure.
just being nominated, I think is a worthy achievement in of itself. Like that's incredible too. Those are your peers. Like put it that way. Like they consider you on that par with Jaime Harry, and I think that that's almost as good as winning. Like
Yeah,
that's
I, I
incredible.
I think you have to have confidence in yourself. And one of the things that I learned after accomplishing so many things at a young age, you have to play the part, but you have to believe in yourself, and you have to make sure you enjoy everything that you do. So going back to 2012, right? So I get so many things done and so many achievements in one calendar year. But I go back to 2010. That's the time when I started calling Laker games, when Fox Sports West used to produce games in Spanish. And I remember just being in my booth, and I was thinking about many, many other things, not enjoying what I was doing. And, people can be like, are you serious? You're getting to see Kobe Bryant live, right? One of the best players of your generation and in the history of basketball. You're seeing Pau Gasol. You're seeing this great bench with Jordan Farmer and Ronnie Turiaf and Sasha Vujacic and
I
Lamar
love
Odom. And
Sasha.
it was a great Laker team, right? The one that won the title in 2010. So I'm sitting in my booth and just thinking about other personal issues that I had, and me not being happy. And then I started going back, and I'm like, are you serious? How can you not enjoy this? I mean, people would actually pay to be in your to have your position, to be in your shoes, and I wasn't really enjoying myself. So then I started thinking, you know what? I'm going to feel proud of every single thing that I do. It doesn't matter if it's going to the bathroom at Staples Center or actually calling an NBA Finals game, but I'm going to be very proud of everything that I'm doing because I accomplished it, because because there was something that I did to be in this position. Because I think I started in this business when I was 23, and as I said, I called a World Series game as a reporter. Well, I was part of the broadcast and silent reporter at 24 when I was going to school. So things start happening to you very early in your life. Like I was making six figures working on TV by the time I was 24. So you start losing your ground. You start, sort of stepping on a little brick of yourself, getting big headed, and you forget about how you became who you are and how you went places. So I think what you mentioned, being in the same category as legends, as other legends like Jaime, you have to feel proud about that, and you have to feel proud about everything that you do in life. And that's another lesson that I learned. It doesn't matter where you've gotten. Always remember where you came from. Always remember that first demo that you recorded, or the people that helped you tape that demo, right? Or the people who helped you get to that spot. And everything that you do, it doesn't matter if it's big or small for other people. For you, it has to mean the world. And those are some of the lessons that I've learned. These are more than professionally; they're lessons of life itself, about how to be able to enjoy it. And at the same time, I think even if I might not get into the Baseball Hall of Fame because I haven't called baseball continuously for 20 years like other people, but to me it doesn't matter. Like I live in my own Hall of Fame. I've accomplished things that I've wanted to accomplish. I've been able to share those moments with my family. So I feel happy, and I'm proud of the place where I'm at right now.
Man, you keep killing it. That's why you're so great at what you do. You have a way with words, and you have a way to say these stories. Um, Looking forward, obviously, post quarantine, post COVID-19, hopefully this is all resolved and everybody, I don't know what the new normal is, but the sporting events. So I don't want to say, oh, let's say in 6 months. I don't want to say in 12 months, because we don't know what the landscape's going to be. But as you personally, like, what are you moving for in the future? Like when everything's back to normal. I get it. There might be a new normal. They're talking about, a baseball league with no fans at the beginning. But I mean, what is in your perspective, in your moves, what's the next step? Where are you headed?
Well, it's been a tough stretch. I'm not gonna lie to you, and for this, I would like to commend Jack Harris, writer for the LA Times, who wrote an amazing article, and he included me amongst some other voices of LA sports, and we all talked about how it is for us, right, going through this. And you're a big baseball fan, so Joe Davis was in that article,
Okay.
Brian Seaman from the Clippers, Alex Faust from the Kings, and I was made part of that group about how LA voices are going through this struggle for everyone, right? And I know in my case, what talking about the quotes that he included, I remember telling him, how am I gonna make up for all the income that I'm losing? A lot of people are already full time, or they have a contract. A lot of the work that I do is as a freelancer. So I'm very fortunate to have kept my job at Channel 62, Estrella TV. So I'm still the sports anchor, going live from my house via Skype. And then I do an LAFC show for them as well, which is, we actually signed a contract with LAFC to start broadcasting their games this year. I was made the Spanish voice of LAFC. That's not happening for a while, I guess. But in the meantime, we're re-airing classic games, right?
Okay.
So for me, it's been like what I did the last month. I started, like, as I said, I reinvented myself as a consultant for different teams, and I also work as a consultant helping companies going or expanding to Latin America. So right now, there's been the same way that a lot of people are struggling. There's been a lot of needs for different products and different types of work around the world. So I got into a business venture trying to help some people here in the U.S. expand into Latin America and Mexico specifically. So that really kept me busy for the last 3 weeks, right? Like I wasn't really sleeping. I was in the middle of, awake in the middle of the night. I've always been a late sleeper, but at the same time, I was sleeping 2 hours a day, at times not sleeping. So a lot of people told me, well, how are you adapting to this? And I'm like, I'm busier than I was before
Wow.
this actually happened, right? And a lot, I know people, they're sending each other challenges for push-ups or juggling the ball and whatnot. I'm like, guys, I didn't get invited to any of those parties, but at the same time, even if I had, I didn't have time to do it. Like right now, I'm getting some time to breathe right now. I am married. I don't have kids, but I have a cat. So I'm trying to give him more of my time right now, because I know that this is very unfortunate. I've lost a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie about that. But at the same time, I gotta see what why this is happening, right? If for me, like, we all cope with things differently, and if this is going to be an opportunity for me to bond with my family even deeper, because I was busy all the time before, because I was working 7 days a week and had 2 or 3 gigs in one day, well, so be it. Like, I'm going to try to really value time with my family. As of how this is going to end up, I honestly don't know, and I don't want to talk about things that are being said uh, behind the scenes of how this is going to end up or how this is going to happen. Because a lot of times people tell you, "Oh, sports are going to get back to normal." Well, that doesn't mean anything to me, right? Because sports might be back to normal for athletes, but I don't know if my job is going to be secure. I
Mm.
want to be positive and think, yeah, I'm going to have something, and there's some things in the works, and I'm hopefully there's some things that's something that I'm working on that I should be able to announce in the next month, I guess, which I'm really excited about. New big project for me. So I'm staying busy, man. There's really no time. Like, I'm getting time to breathe right now, but at the same time, for someone who has financial responsibilities, as head of household, and someone who lives a lifestyle the way I live my lifestyle, I have to make money. So, I feel, and then again, I want to have some time to breathe right now, but in 2 days, I know it's time to get back to creating and reinventing myself once again, and trying to see what's going to happen. So right now, the only thing that I can tell you, that tonight I have to connect from home to my newscast, and tomorrow I honestly don't know what's going to happen, and I'm taking it day by day. So I said, it's not the best situation. We're all struggling, uh, but I can't look to the future. I
Too far
have
ahead.
to, then again,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Not even tomorrow. I have to live my life today, just have fun. Like, I'm sitting down talking to you, enjoying this moment, and later I'm gonna start playing FIFA on Xbox. Then
Nice.
later I'm gonna play with my cat, or go buy coffee with my wife, because right now that's probably one of the only things that we can cherish together, right? And we can't go out except for going to the supermarket or to get coffee, right? So that's your memory of the day. So really, I'm not, I can't tell you what I'm gonna do, but the only thing that I know is that I'm gonna really hustle, and I'm gonna make sure I give my best to reinvent myself and to rediscover what's gonna happen after this for me. As you said before, I'm not a quitter, man. So it's just about finding what my place in this new world would be, and just going from there.
Uh, uh, there's no doubt in my mind that whatever you decide to do or how you do it, you're gonna do great at it. You're gonna excel.
I appreciate it,
What I
man.
know of you and what I've, the little snippet of that you shared with us today, like part of your life, who you are, uh, you're successful for a reason, So
Thank
um,
you.
I appreciate you coming on. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you do. Like you said, you have a busy schedule, and this is kind of like a leisure time, and so I want you to enjoy FIFA. I want you to enjoy your family. So this
No,
isn't
it's
quite
my pleasure, man. I love talking to people, and one of the reasons why I'm in entertainment is because of I love talking. So feel free if you have any more questions, want to throw my way. You
of
never
course.
know what's going to happen tomorrow, so let's
Yeah.
take advantage
Okay.
of
No,
it
then I'll
today.
take it. Yeah, I'll take advantage. And I just, um, no. Okay. So put me in a hypothetical situation. There's a kid right
Uh-huh.
now stuck in quarantine. He
Hmm.
was gonna go to college next year. He's in high school. He doesn't know quite what to do, but he's hearing
Hmm.
this episode and he's saying to himself, "Hey," he's gonna look you up, right? Maybe he's not familiar with you. He's gonna look you up. He's gonna see your accomplishments. He's gonna say, "I want to
Sure.
do that." How would you guide him to do that? Not to say to be the next Francisco X Rivera, but to be his own person, but kind of let him know, like, of course, like the hard work. And I'd rather let you say it.
When I started my internship with Fox, I remember a lot of people. I was a junior, right? And even when I started, I remember someone that has become my best friend, one of my best friends and mentors, who was the person that hired me back then. Her name is Celeste Gehring, who used to be an executive at Fox. I remember her saying that, for me to come in as a junior and get an internship was great, but they would not hire anyone until they actually graduated from college, right? And then what happened? 6 months later, during my junior year, I got offered a job as a production assistant, right? Why did that happen? Because I wanted to always, do something outside the box. I wanted to go above and beyond. And if I had some task thrown my way, I wanted to make sure it was done well, and not only well, but better than the person right next to me. And I saw some. I mean, I was there for 4 years. I mean, for 4 semesters, if you will, before I started on air, and then I actually left Fox to be on air, right? But I saw so many interns coming and going, right? And then of those, how many are actually accomplish something? I probably none of them. But you know what? I always, like I said to myself, I want to be in this business, so I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to say hi to everyone. I'm not going to be shy to, if I see one of the big bosses, I'm going to be shy talking to them. If I see a big, like a big celebrity, like I remember meeting Warren Moon, for example, right?
Wow.
And I wasn't shy to go and talk to Warren Moon. I remember meeting, a guy that I've met and that I've shared so many on camera moments recently, and that I love to death, is Patrick O'Neill. He was one of the big hosts for Fox Sports West back then. He still is 15 years after. And I remember talking to Patrick and just asking him for advice when I met him during my internship years at Fox. And he was always so kind. And right now, because of the Kings, we've shared so many on camera moments together. And that was part of the key for me. Like, I want to meet you. I'm going to pick your brain about how to get where I'm going to get. But I'm never going to forget that you did that for me, right? A lot of people are just shy and they don't talk to people. They just do whatever their internship entitles, and they leave. But it was not my case. That I knew I needed to go above and beyond. I needed to talk to people. I needed to make my presence felt and heard. And it was the way it was. And some of the people, actually, that generation of production people actually has produced a lot of great talent back then at Fox. Are you familiar with Carissa Thompson,
Yes, sir.
Fox NFL? Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you are.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Carissa was working HR, I think. She was an intern at the same time as I was, and she's become one of the top talents in the country. She's done extra and NFL on Fox. I mean, I'm just so proud of her, and I see her on Sundays at Fox when I call football there, and we talk, and I'm like, man, can you believe we've actually made it so far, right? And for us, we're just two young kids just coming in trying to get a place. And but you can tell, like, for her, in her case, she's only not very, very good looking, but she's so talented at what she does. She has that stage presence and that command, and like, you knew when talking to her and we're seeing her, and for the first time, you knew she was going to get places. Another guy that I worked with doing production at the news desk at Fox was Elliot Harrison from
Okay.
NFL Network. He's a big guy at NFL.com, and also coming on doing segments on TV as well. And Elliot and I used to sit right next to each other, and while we're actually booking satellites or trying to book an interview with Ken Rosenthal for Fox Sports West or something like that, we're actually testing each other with baseball and football trivia, right? So I remember, talking to those guys, and at the time we didn't know we were gonna, make it to the major leagues. And maybe we did, but at the same time, it was so. I mean, the concern was getting through the day, right? Getting paid and doing our jobs. But what we all became accomplished and successful in our own field and our own ways. So, I mean, the only thing, not to deviate too much from your question, the fact of the matter is, just make relationships, man, networking. That's going to be the key for you. You can't, if you really want to make it far in this business, you can't be shy. You need to make sure you make your presence heard. And you also need to make sure you find what makes you unique in this business. I always say that, I might sound like a broken record, but yeah, you have to find what makes you unique. In my case, going back to when I talked to Pepe Iñiguez from the Dodgers, and I said, Pepe, I want to become a broadcaster. Well, he hooked me up with the people from Fox Espanol. So in my case, what made me unique was the fact that I had recently moved from Mexico, that my Spanish was perfect, and I could become a Spanish broadcaster. And then I noticed on the Spanish side of things, Fox had a lot of great products. They had NFL, they had MLB, they had the NBA, but everyone wanted to call soccer and everyone knew soccer. But, being born and raised in Mexico City, which is a very, very diverse metropolis, we love our NFL, we love our MLB, and I knew a lot about quote unquote American sports. So I thought that made me unique. So I focused. I eventually got into soccer because it was my path, right? But I knew that calling baseball, I was going to be able to get in because there were not so many baseball broadcasters. Same with football, same with NBA. So I try to find ways to get into the business. And the great thing about it too was the way television entertainment work. You usually start in small markets and then eventually start moving up. But I was already living in LA. I had nowhere to go, and I was not going to move to a small market. So for me, that small market, if you will, was Spanish television in Los Angeles. And I eventually got to where I wanted to get, thanks to finding that niche um, business or that section of entertainment where I could be comfortable and then eventually become someone.
Uh, I mean, it's a unique situation, right? But it's because you play to your strengths, like you said. I think you downplay it. I think you're humble, but I think you downplay it. But yeah, that's your talents led you to that success, while the circumstances were different. But also, let me see off the top of my head, like
But you know what? Just to add to it, everyone's talented. I mean, this world has a surplus of talented people, but you need more than talent to get by. And you're a baseball guy, and Ken Griffey Jr., for example, might have been the most talented baseball player that's ever lived. But why doesn't he have the home run record? Why didn't he accomplish more? I honestly don't know, and I don't want to beat him too hard, but there's a reason why he didn't become the best player ever, right? Even though I think he must be the most talented player ever. And you see so many cases, not to hit too hard on Junior. He's an amazing talent, but just this is the first example that came to my head. There's a surplus of talents. But why do you look? Music's the same thing. Why do you look at some people, college players, and you're like, man, this guy was so talented. Maybe he liked to drink. Maybe he didn't like to train. Maybe he wasn't disciplined. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you for calling me talented, but yeah, there's so many people right next to me that are talented, but at the same time, you have to want it enough, and or you have to be in the right place at the right time. So it's a combination of factors. Then again, that you have to have in order for you to become the person that you want to become.
well said. There's there's um there's let's say there's other students, right, that don't know how to even get into these doors, like you know an internship. Like, what classes should they take? What you know what program, what kind of schooling, like, do they do? Small, I don't want to hate on anybody, but like those DeVry type schools, those University of the Phoenix, because I think now they even offer, I've seen it, what's it called, broadcasting um network school, something like that. They offer, like, in order, that's how they appease to the crowd, like, oh, you want to be on Sports Center, like, make sure to come check out. Like, what would you be your recommendation for these young
Well,
people to?
I don't know how things are right now, but I can tell you about my experience back then. As I said, I was a junior, and I know the school required you to do an internship, right? And you had to do something with your career, because I remember one of my teachers telling me, if it doesn't have anything to do with your career, you don't get any college credits. It's basically slavery, and that's the word that he used, right? And it makes sense. You're not going to work anywhere for free or give your time for free without getting college credit. So your school has to authorize you to get that internship. And the way I did it, I basically just started doing research. I basically just started going on websites and trying to just basically look for internships. And I remember 20th Century Fox had this opportunity in the sports department for Fox Sports Net. And that's the way I found it. And I went to my interview and I nailed it. Although another great story that I can tell you, the person who hired me, was very I think she showed a lot of empathy because I was late to the interview. I
Mm,
actually showed to the Fox lot in Pico. That's where they film all the movies and everything, which is a busy place. I showed up at 8:55 for a 9 a.m. interview. I just didn't know there were going to be 20 other people trying to get into the lot at the same time. And
oh,
I actually showed up to my interview like at 9:10. I needed to walk a lot after parking, and it was a little messy, but everything else went pretty well, and that's the reason I guess why you and I are talking right now. But that's really what I did. So if it works the same way, I could tell you just Google just sports internships, or you go into, like, if you want to go into sports, go into the ESPN website, go into the Fox website, just try to find like wherever you want to work, just be practical, and just if it's CBS or NBC, whatever, or even right now, the world has changed so much. Like before, when I started doing this, sports teams never looked at Yahoo or like websites or even blogs as anything. They look down at them. And right now, some of these blogs, and especially with MMA and boxing, you see it, they've kept sports alive because
yeah.
networks or some TV stations are now getting too much into it. So right now it's a different story. So I would say whatever you want to work, if it's Yahoo Sports, Bleacher Report, doesn't need to be TV only, but websites, print media, whatever, just try and look at different places and try to see if they're accepting interns, and then follow the requirements from your school. And that's it. I remember when I was going to Long Beach State, they actually had a broadcast internship class. The only thing, it gave you 3 credits. The only thing you needed to do was go and just talk about your internship, talk about your experience within class, and that was it. So I think there are ways to do it. You just got to dig a little deeper, and just try to find whatever makes you comfortable, whatever will get you to where you want to get.
Okay. And just thinking, like you mentioned it, like of course, the comfort. I think, the money, but you touch on it more as far as the legacy. What type of legacy do you want to leave?
Um, as I said, I mean, in my own mind, I'm in my own Hall of Fame. I know I've done everything that I've wanted to do so far when it comes to broadcasting, which has led me, as I said, to reinvent myself. I mean, I think I'm always going to be on TV. I'm always going to be on radio. I'm a broadcaster by nature, but at the same time, what else can I do to make sure I leave something that I remembered? One of the things that we've been working on in my role as a consultant for the Kings, we actually we struck a deal with an ice hockey rink in Mexico City to take their Junior Kings program there, which is historic, uh, because it will be the first time any sports team in the US, any kind of sport, any professional league, is actually in Mexico with that type of program. And I can tell you, I was very fortunate to be architect of it, to get the people that we needed to get, and get the connections that we needed to get with the help of my wife, who knew some people in the business in Mexico, and we were able to strike this deal with the Kings. Unfortunately, we were about to go to Mexico in March, but we had to cancel it because of COVID-19. But we had a lot of kids already interested, a lot of kids already registered, for our first clinics down there, and the first time we're gonna have presence in Mexico. So it's things like that where you want to take the Kings brand into Mexico, and that's historic in its own right. Maybe think about the first NHL game in Mexico ever. Those are the type of things that I want to do, like go above and beyond. Yeah, I know I like what I do, and I think I am good, or I want to believe I'm good at what I do. But at the same time, what else can I do as a broadcaster? Oh, can I do it as a consultant? Can I bring people together, like the deal with LAFC and Estrella TV? Like I was a huge advocate of that, and I really wanted to connect those places together. And now LAFC will be seen at some point when this is over. LAFC will be seen on Estrella TV at some point. And it's not only because I am going to be the one calling the games, but I wanted to make sure I'm involved in something more than that. Or when we had the first Kings game on TV, we actually aired it on Prime Ticket. Like, I was not only the broadcaster, but I went in, I brought talent in. I was a part-time producer in the show. Like, I needed to know that everything that I was doing or everything I was going to air, I had some control over. Like, everything that I do now, it's not only about just controlling something, but making sure, like, if I'm going to be tied up to something, or my name is going to be tied up to something, it's going to have the quality that or it's going to live up to my standards. So anything that could be considered part of LA sports history, I want a part of.
Do you know what makes a best-selling book a bestseller?
What makes a book a bestseller? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Best-selling content, like something that
Okay.
everybody relates to. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but you need to write a book on your journey, your thoughts, at different stages in your life, the ups and downs, the whole. Because it's one thing, I not to tell people don't listen to this episode. This has been great, but I feel like maybe once you get older, because I know that sounds like you have a lot of things in the works, but you have a bestseller and you got to share it with the world.
Yeah, you know what? There's just so many anecdotes and so many different things, and I don't necessarily live them because I know that I'm going to write a book at some point. But I think I've been very fortunate to live so many different moments in my life that I feel proud of having lived, and it doesn't necessarily include sports, but I've been through sports. I've been able to give my family great moments of joy. I've been able to meet some of my idols, not only sports, but in music. I have met, a lot of people that I idolize and I've hung out with or become friends with with rock stars and former athletes that I looked up to when I was a kid, right? And those things are, there's obviously some anecdotes that you can talk about, some that you can't because
Yeah, I know.
they're off the record, right?
Yeah.
But you know what, some of those stories are amazing, and yeah, I thank you for the advice. It's something I really hadn't thought about, but definitely, and it needs to happen at some point, because I would guarantee you, like, there's never been a dull moment in my life, and by that I don't necessarily mean you're gonna see or read a book of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? My life might be boring because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I'm happily married, right? Like, my life might be boring to other people, but I can tell you, man, I have so many different stories about, hanging out with athletes and celebrities, or anecdotes of my own, my own life and everything. So yeah, why not? Thank you for giving me advice. Believe me, when that happens, I'm definitely gonna give you credit in the book.
I look forward to that. That'd be crazy, but no, man, just hearing you, I've brought on a lot of guests, some friends, some strangers. Not saying you're a stranger, but people, not acquaintances, if you will. And just hearing your story, I feel it not only has it resonated with me, Mexican man, immigrant, myself. I mean, I just kind of like, there's, like you said, people tell me, why should I start a podcast? People won't listen to me, and mine isn't about me. Like, it's about the guests. But I tell them, dude, I'm a nobody, and I bring people on, and they share their story, and that
Well, I
resonates
beg
with
to
the
differ.
people.
I beg to differ. And I think that's, if you allow me, I think don't ever say that. I mean, we're all in this world for a reason. And honestly, if you're a nobody, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So feel, and that's what I said before. It's taking me back to what I said before. Make sure you feel proud of anything and everything that you do. Right? We all have a part in this world. Just gotta find what you want to do. But I'm sorry if I'm getting too deep into things, but
No, no, no,
into philosophical issues or whatever. But
no, no.
man, you're a talented guy. Just, and if you don't feel that way, then make sure you meditate, and you get to the point where you find that reason, or that path.
I appreciate the kind words. And
Let's
actually,
compromise.
I do meditate daily now. It's one of, I did 20 challenges with the listeners. Meditation was one of them. So I've been only one day so far on the year. I haven't done it, but I mean, I'm confident in my abilities. I like what I'm doing. This is fun. This is a hobby, but it is, you know, it's been taken off. The quarantine, out of everything that's bad, this is really taken off, I think, because nobody has anything to do and they're tired of
Sure.
Netflix. So they tune in and it's really taken off. But what I mean as me as a nobody is like my accomplishments are, they're not grand, you know. Yes, every job I go to, I end up being a manager, being a supervisor, things like that. You know, my accomplishments on the field were like, he's the best teammate you could have, but I was never the best player. So I'm aware of my capabilities. But what I mean is like, I get musicians to come on here and share their story. You know, I get a psychologist to come in here and talk about everything that's going on at the border. You know, how these kids will be the despair they're going to deal with for the, you know, the rest of their life, you know, being separated from parents. So I don't mean like a nobody as a nobody. Like I'm a very confident person in life. I'm happy and all that, but I just mean like getting people like yourself. It's not about me is what I mean. The show is about the people that come on. You know, the Cool Kids Table podcast is the cool kid. You are the cool kid. People get to hear what happens at the cool table. That's what I meant. But I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, um and that's what I've seen, that people resonate with the, because you know, like you said, my journey wasn't. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but people want like a tragic story and like, but no, everybody has different tragedies in their life and they deal with it differently. Some people would have quit. That's what maybe you don't see because you're such a go getter. But some people would have been, you know what, U.S. was hard, school was hard. They wanted me to carry these things. I'm not a rookie, and that would have been it for a lot of people, for a lot.
Sure.
And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, you kept going after it. You didn't stop. And it's one thing that we all deal with, failure in different types, with bumps in the road, if you will. You know, everybody has a different story. And some people will say, yeah, I remember when I started this new job, everybody whatever, and I couldn't do it, so I quit. But that's not where their story ends. They go and
Yeah,
find something
you know what?
else.
A lot of times people think, like, we tend to look at the person right next to us and think, you know what, this dude had it easy, or this girl, you know, they inherited money, or you know, they had great connections or whatever, and we never think about what a lot of people had to go through to make sure they accomplish something in life. Uh, a great example that I can give you. So I talked about my cousin being a huge actress and then becoming the first lady of Mexico. Her daughter, Sofia Castro, who I like to give a shout out to, she's become an actress in her own right. She recently did the Hispanic version on Univision of Dancing with the Stars, which
Okay.
is called Mira Quien Baila, and she got to the final and she didn't win, which was a travesty to me, but it is what it is. My point is, a lot of people might think it is easy to become an actor when your mom is so famous, when your dad is a famous soap opera producer, when you have all the money in the world. And you know what? People don't tend to think, man, I have so much pressure to achieve something
Hmm.
because of the footsteps that I have to follow. People are blasting me on social media every single freaking day, telling me that I don't deserve what I've done, that I don't deserve to get where I've gotten because of my family, or because of connections, or because of my money. And we don't tend to think of those things, or those pressures, right? Like, even, like, if we look at our president, and then again, I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about the businessman Donald Trump. A lot of people tend to think, well, he was a businessman and he went bankrupt, this and that, but he survived for a reason, right? Because he was witty, or because he was clever about his own business. Even you think about a Bill Gates. I mean, I'm sure Bill Gates and Steve Jobs failed multiple times before getting to where they wanted to get. So, like, we all fail. It doesn't matter how famous you are. We all go through depression. We all go through misery in our own right. But a lot of times it's easier for us to think, well, the person right next to us is just famous because he's famous and because he's rich, and he didn't have to go through anything. I think we all, whatever we've done in our lives, even, I think success is something that's in our heads. But even what we have accomplished or not, I think you have to understand then again what you have done to get to that point, and at the same time think also that everyone who's successful or that you consider successful has gone through something and has gone through their own struggles to become the person that they become.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I touch on repeatedly with the audience is don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself. You know, be better than you were yesterday, and be better than you were last week, a month ago, a year ago. You know, just perfection isn't the goal. You know, progress is. If you're doing better, being better, getting better, you'll stop comparing yourself to others because you know a lot of people tell me, you know, I wish I could have an audience like you know, like I started with nothing. You know, nobody came and listened. You know, at the beginning, it had to build itself over time, and you know, now that it has listens, that it has followers, that it has, I guess, quote unquote fans, I'm like, that wasn't the case. You know, where was it when people, you know, I look at the stats and hardly any listens. Luckily, you know, I have a great group of friends, of acquaintances that have supported me. But when it's just kind of like you look at the numbers, you're like, it's probably just my friends, and you know, it like not to pat myself on the back, but a lot of people would have quit. I know they have because they talk about it like on the forums, you know, like, oh, I did 2, 3 episodes, but nobody listened. And I just kept saying, you know, long-term picture, long-term picture. I'm doing this for 5 years down the road. And actually today is the 30th. Our 1 year anniversary was last week on the 23rd,
Nice,
April 23rd.
congratulations.
Thank you. And, you know, and it's a thing that I look now and I'm like, okay, don't do it for, I'm not going to be Joe Rogan. I don't want to be Joe Rogan. I don't want to be Brendan Schaub. I don't want to be these guys. You know, they're their own person. I want to be Hector Aguilar. I want to have this show continue to bring people on like yourself and just watch it grow. If it doesn't grow, you know, just have that audience that tunes in and enjoys it. You know, I'm doing it for me. It sounds selfish, but I'm doing this for me. Um, I treasure these moments, you know, these conversations. And to be honest with you, I talk about it all the time. I don't know when I'll start, but I don't listen to this again. I'm saving it for down the road, you know, like I don't know, maybe episode 100. This would be episode 30. In a year, this is episode 30. Maybe at 100, I'll be like, okay, now it's been 2, 3 years. I can go back and start listening to them, see the growth of the show, see the growth of me as a person. But I just kind of, that's why I treasure the moment. That's why I live in the moment. You know, I plan for the future, but I live in the moment. And I'm just grateful for people like yourself that will take time of their day and come and do this. And, you know, to make it not a motivational one, but I tell people like, if I can do it, that's one of the things I say, you know, I'm an illegal immigrant. I did not speak English till the 3rd grade. And now people tell me like, your vocabulary is so vast. How do you do it? I'm like, I just read. This year, one of the challenges is read 16 books on the year. I'm barely going to finish one today. I'm trying to do it before
Okay.
April, but on the regular, I used to read. But now with being so busy and everything, and it's what I tell people. If I can do it, of all people, you know, I didn't go to college. I took 2 semesters in college, and I realized that it was not for me at the time. You know, now as an adult, as a 31-year-old male, I say I wish I would have done things differently, but I'm still grateful for the journey. You know, I don't think I'll ever write a book, but I have the stories to be able to say, hey, look, it wasn't easy. There were days when I thought about it, like, why am I going to go just work 12 hours at my job and I got to go record a 2 or 3 hour episode and then go edit for 2, 3 hours and then work for another 12 hours tomorrow? Like, why am I doing this? And then I would just do it, you know, enjoy the conversation, meet somebody great. And then on the drive home, because I still live, I mean, I lived in El Monte. I'm not sure you're familiar with it. You said you went to
Of
Wilson.
course.
I went to
Yeah, yeah.
Mountain View. I lived there
Okay.
for 30 years and I just moved out to Moreno Valley. So I was driving an hour and a half daily and then an hour and a half back home. And then I just kept saying, this is going to pay off in the long run. Just keep doing it. And that's what, you know, I talk to the audience like right now, you know, it's, what do they call it? Breaking the third wall. Like a lot of shows will not say, hey, audience, what do you think? I'll ask them, shoot me a DM. If you liked it, tell me what you think about this, because I feel like it's a new media. And then I don't know how many people, but, you know, sometimes when I have a musician on or another podcaster, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to message that person. You know, I really like what they said. I'm going to listen to their show. So I don't know if you'll get any messages or anything like that. But what I mean is, like you said, networking. They could go back and listen to this episode. And that is part of the network. You know, it's a new venture. You know, if they ever start a podcast, they could go back and say, like you said, that episode made me kind of like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do a YouTube channel, a cooking channel,
Yeah.
a woodworking, whatever it may be. But it's just sometimes people need those words. You know, I could tell them, their family could tell them that, but when it's somebody that has the credentials like yourself to go out there and say, hey, you know, if I could do it, you can do it. That's when it starts like, okay, they hear your background story, you know, because they might see you on TV, but they don't, you know, like some of my favorite people on TV are Stan Verrett and Neil Everett, the 10 p.m. Sports Center guys. But I don't know
Yeah.
much about them. You know, I love their on-screen presence, but I don't know much about them. I know that one of them went to Oregon, the other one's from Louisiana, because LSU, Oregon. That's they talk about. You know, but once you get to, if you were to know their story, things change, and that's what I want to say with you. Like, you're a great on-screen personality. You do a great job, but they might just see you and be like, okay, well, the Laker game's over. Let me change the channel. Well, the Dodger game's over. Let me change the channel. You know, let's watch, I don't know, whatever might be on after 10 p.m., right? Maybe the Sports Center. And once they get to hear you and see your struggles, see your successes, it makes you more relatable. Not just because, oh, that's a brown person on TV, you know, that's a person of, that's one of us. It makes it more like that could be me, which I
Yeah,
think is invaluable.
I think to your point, and this is not blasting anybody or anything, but you need to, like, in today's world, you need to be relatable, and that's, you need to expand your brand, and that will only help you. And I understand people will not, maybe not need it because, you know, they're already famous or whatever, but, you know, for someone who's not the most famous person in their profession like myself, but those okay either way. I feel I genuinely, and it's not that I need to talk to people, but I enjoy it. I actually genuinely enjoy talking to fans and interacting at times. I mean, being very honest with you, I am very careful now with the people that I interact with,
Mm.
because I've had, you know, I'm not telling you that I get bombarded with messages on social media, but I've had a couple of bad experiences. You know, I've had the usual stalker, which has, you know, there was this time, and not a lot of people know about this, but there was this time when this girl actually, I think she got obsessed with me, and she first wanted an autograph and a picture, and then I actually never met her, and she contacted my wife telling her that we were together at a hotel in one of my my travels doing soccer, you know.
Wow.
So I've been very careful nowadays with who I reply to. And you were kind enough to contact me on social media and tell me that you have to do this, and that's why obviously I follow the same protocol for everyone. Send me an email to my work, or contact me via my work email. Send me details. Let me have the record. Let me know what you're about. I obviously listened to part of your your last show with Ron Savage,
Oh,
the baseball coach.
yeah,
So I mean, I have to do my own research because
yeah.
it's my brand. To be honest with you, it's my name, and I am not going to be associated with something that I believe in. And at the same time, if you call me and I don't approve your product, it doesn't matter how big or how small you are. I'm not gonna come on the show, right? So it's, but for me, I genuinely enjoy it. I remember with the Kings, one of the things that helped me in my consultant role in terms of knowing my audience was interacting with people. We would have trivias to give away tickets on every game. And what did I do? I actually had people reply to me on my social media with the answer. And then I would be the one interacting with people during timeouts, right? And then I remember a lot of people talking to me in English despite being a Spanish broadcast. I'm like, this is interesting. Why is this happening? And then I came to the realization that a lot of our hockey audience here in LA is like a first or second generation Latino who speaks mostly English but
Yeah,
enjoys the Spanish call, or enjoys listening to the game with their parents, right?
that's
Because
me.
their
That's
parents speak.
I am
Exactly.
your demographic.
Exactly. So that's my point. And that's because of something that I did. But at the same time, I'm not going to tell you talking to people or being nice is just a marketing tool. I mean, I genuinely enjoy, mingling with people and talking to people. I mean, as I said, I haven't gotten to that point where I cannot walk, within Staples Center because people are just going to mock me. It's not that. But at the same time, anytime someone approaches me or someone sends me a message, I'm going to be kind enough to actually acknowledge them. And one of the things you do need to have an attitude, and you need to be proud of yourself, and you obviously can't be tend to take advantage, and that's just the way it is.
Hello, hello.
Uh,
You it cut out for a second.
but
Are you back? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry,
Oh no, no, you're good. You're good. I
did I
think
lose you? Okay,
no, you're good. You're good.
yeah, I
It
think
just
I
cut out
lost you
for a
for a second.
second.
My
Yeah.
headphones. Yeah, yeah. But my point is, you need to have some kind of uh, personality, attitude, if you will, because if you're nice to people, people tend to take advantage, and it is what it is.
Mhm.
If you're too nice, you need to know the fine line between being, you know, having that attitude and not being an asshole. But I remember, just going back to my childhood, and once again going back to my family, my cousin, when she was at the peak of her career, I remember her going to my school and being mobbed by other kids because they wanted an autograph or a picture, and going to theme parks and seeing her give every single person that approached her an autograph. Right. So I learned about that, and I learned to be humble because of examples that I saw in my life. So right now, whenever I see a Hollywood celebrity or an athlete being a jerk to a fan, there's no excuse for that. I mean, you might have a bad day, and unfortunately it is what it is, but there's just too many people that have too many bad days. Right. And that's very unfortunate, because you never know who you're going to meet, or who you're going to be nice to, and if you're going to change that person's life.
Yeah.
I've seen so many athletes and celebrities being too nice to people, and I've seen some others being jerks. I've actually lived through it myself. As I said, I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of rock stars that I looked up to, and that were so nice to me and talked to me. Maybe because I'm a Kings broadcaster, because I'm TV now. I don't know how they would have approached me had I not been, in entertainment or whatever. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking, oh, this person was super nice. I'm grateful for that moment. And at the same time, I've been through the usual moment where someone has been a jerk to me. It is what it is, right? But going back to me specifically, I really enjoy talking to people. I enjoy mingling with people, and I enjoy getting feedback too. And one of the things that I feel very proud about is, there's one thing that I remember when I was calling games for Fox on the English side, and I was going to be the sideline reporter for Mexico against the U.S. I don't know how much soccer you follow, but the U.S. Had never lost to Mexico in U.S. soil,
Yeah.
right? And they had been, beating them in Columbus every time. And this was a very cold November evening in Columbus, and Mexico actually got the game. But I was freezing my butt off. But that's another point. What I remember is, this guy, Caucasian, probably 20-something-year-old, comes up to me, and I'm like, is this guy gonna be give me a hard time? Because I mean, there were no Latinos there at the stadium. That's for sure. There were
Yeah.
probably a few Mexican fans that drove from other places, and I remember talking to some guys, I think from Monterrey, telling me that the tickets were sold out and needed to pay like $600, and to get into the stadium, right? Because they sold no tickets to the visiting team. Obviously, they wanted all the advantage, and that's the way it should be, right? You need to find your own, or use your own weapons to make sure you have all the support you can get. So this Caucasian male approaches me, and he's like, "Hey, Francisco, how you doing?" I'm like, "Okay, this is interesting." And he's like, "Man, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of your work. Can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "Really?" And this is Columbus, Ohio, man.
Yeah.
This is not freaking
Los
East
Angeles,
LA, where
California.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, where people are, watching my broadcast on Estrella TV. And then, Estrella has given me a lot of exposure because La Raza really likes Estrella TV, right? It's a
Yeah.
channel for La Raza. And despite being on network TV, or Fox, or, many of the other channels or the teams that I work for, most of the people, or the more people or the more that I work at Estrella, the more people recognize me on the street, right? So then again, this is not East LA or Boyle Heights or El Monte or Hacienda Heights. This is Columbus, Ohio. And for someone who's from a different race, if you will, to come to me and say he's a big fan and ask for a picture, that was like, man, that's very humble. So it really doesn't matter who it is, or what race or ethnicity or you come from. I genuinely like to interact with people, and I like to hear your story, and it's just part of me. I guess I'm a social butterfly, and I'm a storyteller by nature. At the same time, I want to listen to those stories, and maybe you have something interesting to say. One of the things that one of these great anecdotes that I have, maybe say for a book at some point, when I was going to Long Beach State. So I graduate, and I kept some good relationships with some teachers, and there's been the usual time when I go back to campus and talk to students, and I remember back in 2007, I graduated in 2006. So back in 2007, they invited me back, and I gave a speech to one of the classes. And I had this Latino girl approaching me at the end of the class and telling me that she felt very proud of what I did, and that she wanted to become a TV personality, a producer, or someone in the business. So I actually, just being nice, I said, well, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for approaching me. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I really value the fact that you came up to me and talked to me, right? So we kept in touch. Long story short, she became a producer at Estrella TV. And
Wow.
back in 2015, when I was in between jobs, I was in transition, she called me up. She's like, man, we need a sports anchor at Estrella TV. Can you come fill that void? And I'm like, yeah, let me look at my schedule. What do I have on? Nothing. Yeah, I can go tomorrow. I'm ready to go, right? And I bring this point because I didn't talk to her because I knew she was going to be a producer at Estrella TV, and 8 years later she was going to help me. I was genuinely being nice, and you know, I didn't know what was going to accomplish. I just talked to her because I thought, she took her own time to come talk to me. Well, I'm going to be nice enough to give that time back to someone, and it eventually helped me out. It paid out for me. It paid off for me, even though I didn't do it for that reason. So that's once again the point about being. I mean, I don't hate people who are not necessarily social. Each person has its own personality, but at the same time, if I know consciously that I can be nice to people, I'm gonna do my best at being nice to people.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it pays off in other ways too. At the end of the day, being a good person, you're a good person. So that's worth more than gold. And I read a book. You have a lot of anecdotes. You have a lot of. I mean, we haven't even touched on. I don't want to be that person like, who's the coolest celebrity you've met? Who's the funny? I don't want to do that because that's not fair to you. To have to pick somebody, but you'd be
I
able
could
to
do
share
that.
those stories. Okay.
I could do that.
Who's the funniest guy you've met, like celebrity wise? That's just funny,
Uh,
like.
well, I could go with Will Ferrell. I mean, we're not friends or anything, but I guess now he knows who I am because I'm a broadcaster for the team that he owns,
Yeah.
LAFC. But he's also a huge Kings fan,
Hmm.
right?
So I've
So
seen him a few times at the Kings games.
exactly. So there was a time a couple of months ago when I was walking to the stadium, going to the players' ramp, and there he is, and I'm like, "Hey, boss." So we started talking about, the Latino following in hockey and LAFC and whatnot. So we actually have something in common to talk about. So it was great, and the fact of the matter, he knows who I am, so that's amazing. And when I don't know if he was funny at the time we were talking, but he's probably the funniest guy the celebrity that I've met because of. I mean, I'm a big fan of his either way. So yeah, I mean, I think you would probably have to go with Will Ferrell.
It's beautiful. Who's the best dresser?
Best dresser, I would have to go with our very own Daryl Evans. You
Mm.
you can't be Daryl, man. And for those of you who don't know who Daryl is, he was a Kings player. He scored one of the most famous goals in the history of the franchise, Miracle in Manchester, back in '82. And Daryl retired, became a Kings broadcaster. His suits are the best thing, and I can tell you, man, I like to dress. I have my own style, and I'm not going to say if outrageously or not, but I like to dress in my own way, not follow any rules. Daryl is in a category of his own. He's amazing. His suits are simply incredible. One of the anecdotes that I have, I recently took Jorge Campos, who was a
Okay.
former Galaxy and
The
Mexican national
goalie.
team
Yeah,
goalkeeper, of
yeah.
course.
That's our
Yeah,
that's our guy.
and Jorge, he used to. I mean, he was quite a character. He used to
Yeah.
dress this colorful,
Flamboyant colors. Yeah.
exactly, goalie sweaters and everything. So I actually introduced Daryl and Jorge, and I told Jorge, I showed some pictures. I'm like, man,
I am introducing two of the most fashionable people in the history of sports. And that time, everyone was interested in meeting Jorge. And if you don't know who he is, you might not think he was an athlete or even a goalkeeper, because he's a short guy for a goalkeeper. But once they knew who he was, everyone wanted a piece of Jorge. Former players, other celebrities, they wanted to know him because he was, man, for me, like if you're a baseball guy now and you think maybe Clayton Kershaw, Cody Bellinger, Mike Trout, Jorge, dude, he was our Mike Trout back in the day. He was one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Not to say in Mexico, he was a rock star. So anyway, I introduced these two guys, and Jorge, he loves it, right? And he tells me, brother, you got to put me in touch with Daryl, because I'm gonna give him like a suit. Like I'm gonna, like, let's say he likes to dress on like theme suits, like it's like Gay Pride or St. Patrick's or Halloween, whatever he is. Like Daryl chooses something, right? Uh, like Jorge told me, I'm going to actually not sell him. I'm actually gonna gift him a mariachi suit, but a good one, a classy one. I like a big charro suit. When we have like Latino Heritage Night. So let me know. Give me his phone number. Let's make sure we get his measurements. I'll make it happen for him as a gift to Daryl. So yeah, definitely Daryl is in a category of his own. And not only the best dressed man, but he's also an amazing individual, an amazing human being.
Okay. This is a good one, just because for the quarantine, I got a mullet just to commemorate, just to be able to remember this. And so a lot of people have been sending me their haircuts, or how their fro has gotten, or how their hair has not. Who has the best hair?
Of the celebrities that I met,
Yeah.
ooh, that's a tough one. As a male, I cannot tell. There's many guys that tell you that they don't appreciate male beauty. I'm actually, I'll be very honest, and I think if you're good looking, I will tell you you're a good looking dude.
Yeah.
But
Same.
I don't for whatever reason I don't look at hair. But let's see. Well, I remember one of the guys that I looked up to that I think was a huge personality, and when I met him for the first time, like I used to see him play for a little bit and see him baseball cards, and he don't look that big of like that tall and that actually big of a guy when I met him. Steve Lyons. Remember Psycho Steve Lyons, who was a Dodger broadcaster?
Yeah.
That dude, man, dressed in a suit, tall dude. He was a second baseman and shortstop. I mean, I didn't know second baseman and shortstop were so tall when I met him. That guy had hair. I remember like long, curly, like wavy blonde hair. I'm like, man, this is a good looking dude. So I remember, so that I'm thinking he's the first guy that came to mind when you told me about, celebrities and hair. I would have to say him. He had quite a personality, and that hair, man, was amazing. With me, that's, if you tell me one of the things that I would change, I'm not 100% with my hair. I'm not gonna say I hate it, but it's tough, and especially during these times I haven't gotten a haircut.
Yeah.
I've been on TV. It's a mess. Like I don't have, like, my dad has curly hair. Most of my family have wavy hair. In my case, I probably have the worst hair
I have terrible
in
hair.
my family and my relatives. So when I see a dude with nice hair, as I said, I don't pay attention too often. But when I see a dude with hair, I definitely have to acknowledge it.
Okay, last one, because this being the Cool Kids Table podcast, like, who's the coolest person you met? It could be famous or not. Just sometimes you meet somebody and you're just like, they could have been an athlete, they could have been an accountant, they could have ended up, I don't know, not to take anything away from anybody, but they could have ended up being a street sweeper, working at a laundromat. Some people are just naturally cool. Who is the coolest person you've met?
With that one, I am probably gonna have to go with a celebrity, because if that's not a friend of mine, because if it's someone that I know and who I hang out and mingle with, and I don't mention that person, might be a little unfair.
Let's do both.
Well,
let's not narrow it. Do both.
Well, let's say non-friend. So let's say, coolest person that I've met. That's probably up to interpretation, because you have to click with that person. But I can tell you, in the last few years, there's a couple of people that come to mind. that I have really clicked with. One of them, are you a rock guy at all?
Yeah, for the most part.
So Art Cruz, who's a drummer of Lamb of God,
Okay.
he's actually from a guy from East LA. And as you say, like you and I, La Raza, a Latino, dream of being a heavy metal drummer, a rock star. And he realized his dream, right?
Mm.
And we met through social media. I invited him to a hockey game recently. He came, and we hit it off from then. And he's not, I mean, he's the guy that I looked up to because he's one of the best drummers in the world. And I'm a huge rock guy. Rock and roll is, besides sports is the other big part of my life. So being able to hang out and share stories with him, just incredible. It's just incredible. And then again, we had so many things in common. I actually invited him to the last LAFC game that we had before this coronavirus situation. So we constantly stay in touch, and we become really, really good friends recently.
That is cool, man. Not to
And
pardon the pun, but that is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hanging out with a rock star, man.
Yeah.
And, we're thinking about doing something on Zoom and jamming on Skype or something. And for someone like me who's always pursued a career in music as well besides sports, it's just incredible to call someone like that a friend. And I remember my wife has family in Tijuana. One of her cousins is a doctor there, and her husband, who's a doctor as well, who works in sports actually with athletes in Mexico. He's a huge heavy metal fan, and he's a huge fan of art. And I told him, really, you like Lamb of God? I'm like, yeah, man, I saw your picture. That's amazing. So next thing I did, we're eating tacos in Tijuana, one of the best taco places that I've been to. So we're just having a great time there. And I call Art, and I'm like, dude, I'm with a fan of yours. This guy's a huge fan. He's seen you in concert 3 times in Mexico, and I think he saw you in San Diego too. Why don't you call me on FaceTime? Let's give this guy a shout out, dude. So he's like, yeah, dude. He was actually at spring training at the time because he's a huge baseball fan. He was in spring training. He's driving back to LA, and he's like, dude, as soon as I get home, I'll call you. And then a couple hours passed by. I thought he forgot about it, and all of a sudden he calls on FaceTime. And this guy is just like, he can't believe it. Like, he's in shock, man. He can't believe he's actually talking to one of his idols. It's amazing. So I made that moment happen. And for Art to just be able to make that moment happen for me, is just incredible. So he's a guy that we hit it off right from the start. And how can you be a rock star, a heavy metal drummer, all tattooed up, long hair, and not be considered cool, right?
Yeah.
And plus, he's one of the sweetest people. But he's one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. Seriously, I mean, he is. Then again, he has that mean look and whatever. He looks like a creepy heavy metal drummer, but he's one of the sweetest people that I've ever met. He's that guy that will come and give you a hug and say, "Brother, sending you much love, sending you hugs, best wishes for your family and your family." Is that type of guy. For whatever reason, I've met a lot of like heavy metal drummers, and they're, for whatever reason, the nicest people I've met. Fred Curry from Cinderella, Guns N' Roses, another guy that I consider my friend now, is just an amazing person. And he's one of the nicest people in the world. That's what I'm saying. Like, for whatever reason, heavy metal drummers have that sweet spot. And when it comes to the Kings family, a guy that I recently met and that I think God put in my path for a reason. His name is Jonathan Lowe. He was until recently the senior vice president of brand and marketing development and many other things for the Kings. We recently met. He right away became one of my biggest advocates within the Kings family. And we hit it up right from the start because he's like our big thing was fashion, right? I'm huge into, like, huge fashion follower, and we hit it off from then. And we started finding out we had a lot of things in common. And besides having that professional bond, we started finding out there was more to it. It's like having that bromance, and I don't know if you have a friend that where you share so many things. Like, we have friends, like I have friends that I've had the same friends for like 10, 15 years, 3 or 4. And we already know our strengths, our weaknesses. But then there's times when you meet someone, and right from the get-go, that this guy is gonna be your bro for a
Yeah.
while. Like,
The
yeah, you
song
guys
starts
are gonna
playing by
be.
the White Stripes. I can tell that we
Yeah,
are gonna.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like
know.
he's gonna be the guy that your wife is gonna give you a hard time because you're spending more time with him than with her. So that's the guy. So I know Jonathan has been a huge part of my life. He recently left the Kings organization. He worked with AEG for 20 years, and he became the chief marketing officer of the LA Auto Show, which was one of the biggest events, obviously, in LA. I don't know if you've been,
Yeah.
but I can't wait for this to go back to normal. The Auto Show is back in November, so can't wait to be there and just congratulate him. I'm sure he's going to be doing a great job there. And he's a freaking CMO, man. He's a freaking boss. So I'm really proud of that guy. But he's one of those people that I've met recently that, you know, I'm like, man, this is a cool guy. I want to hang out with that guy because he's not a rock star. He's not an actor. He's not a guy that I saw on TV or an athlete that I want to hang out with. But at the same time, you know, he's a rock star in what he does.
The rock star in life.
Yeah, exactly. And he's plus he's a big time executive. So enough said. But yeah, one of the things that I have to say about all the people that I've met in this LA Kings advisory board, which he made me a part of, these are not only people who are very successful at what they do, and there's some names that are part of it. Who's there? Michael Sugar, who's one of the biggest Hollywood producers, part of the group. Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, and a very good actor and producer in his own right. Fred Curry, who I mentioned before. Gabe Sachs, who's a very talented producer, writer, and director. He actually was one of the writers on Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if you watched that
Yeah,
show.
great
It's one of
show.
my
That's
favorites.
what
Yeah,
Seth
yeah,
Rogen got his start, and
exactly. So
yeah.
Gabe was one of the main guys in Freaks and Geeks. So when we met, I'm like, that's a cool dude. I want to hang out with you. You roll Freaks and Geeks, man. Please, I want to spend time with you, and we become good friends as well. Five for Fighting. I don't know if you're familiar with the artist. He was very big in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Say that again. The
Five for Fighting.
okay. No, not familiar with that one.
Frank Agnomi, who's the third guy in command of South Park.
Okay.
Right after Matt
and Trey.
Stone and Trey Parker. He's the third one in command. If you look at the credits, he's the guy that comes right after them.
Oh,
He's
wow.
part of an advisory board as well. And Frank, we haven't become friends per se, but he knows who I am. We've talked. He actually recently invited me to the studios, which would be a dream come true for me because of South. I'm a huge fan of South Park. I've been since 1999. So my point is, not only, and I've met also, you know, great CEOs and business owners who are very, very big on what they do. My point is, what's been great about meeting this group of people, of cool people, is the fact that they're also amazing individuals. Like those are not going to be the guys that are going to deny you of an autograph or a picture. Those are going to be the guys that are going to have a very rich conversation with you for hours and hours. So for me, if you're a cool guy, to qualify to be a cool guy, now you mention it and make me think about it, you have to be a nice person. And these are I don't like someone because, well, I may be shocked if I meet someone that I idolize because he was a rock star that I looked up to, or a celebrity or an athlete or whatever. But at the same time, for us to hit it off and to continue a relationship after that, you have to be a nice person, and you have to share my interests and passions and whatnot. So some of the people that I've mentioned that I've met recently, without leaving a lot of people out of it, you know, these are people that I genuinely like hanging out with, not because they're famous, but because we have something in common and because they are nice enough to give their own times as well.
That's awesome, man. I mean, you're in those groups for a reason. You get me? So
no, thank you. And you seriously make me think, because those, I mean, I can tell you of the people that I met that we're not friends, but I have met and have a conversation with. Dave Grohl from Nirvana. And that's one of the things that I cherish the most, because when I made my wife, we were in junior high in Mexico City. I was 14, she was 13 years old. And I got introduced to grunge and to Nirvana because of my wife.
Whoa.
And we didn't see each other for a while, and then we reconnected again through Facebook when I was living in the US and she was in Mexico. And then we hit it off again and we married and we got married. She moved here and we got married. So for me, to meet Dave Grohl of Nirvana after he was such a big part of my personal life and my relationship with my wife, I can tell you that that was $1 million moment. Um, who else? I mean, I bet when it comes to sports, when I met Charles Barkley, that's a huge
Wow.
moment. And,
Yeah.
and there's a story behind it. And then again, this is all going to come out in the book. The NBA used to go to Mexico every year until it actually became so big that they had the need to do a regular season game. So I'm talking to you about 1997 when the Rockets and the Mavericks played there. Of course, I had to be there. I was a huge basketball fan. I had to be there. And then what happened? The Rockets win the game. And there were not so many Rockets fans in Mexico, but, you know, they had Hakeem Olajuwon, they had Clyde Drexler, they had Barkley. So Barkley takes his shoe off and he throws it to the stands in joy, man. And he was so happy of getting that kind of reception. Maybe people don't realize, maybe Americans don't realize how much following sports have in Mexico when you talk about NFL, NBA, MLB. But once you're an athlete and you're there and you live the moment, I think it's going to shock you and it's going to blow you away. And I think that happened to Sir Charles. And all of a sudden, he throws a shoe to the stands. And, you know, that's something my dad and I joked about it in the moment because he's like, who's going to want that smelly shoe? And I'm like, Dad, it's Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
You know, he's a legend, right? And I'm sure whoever has it is going to value that shoe forever. So fast forward, 2010 NBA Finals. I was very fortunate to call that Lakers Celtics finals for DirecTV Latin America. So I go down to the court, and there's a lot of people that I met. Then Terrell Owens. I grew up liking the Buffalo Bills, and he was with the Bills. He had played for the Bills recently, and he was there. And he actually took my picture with a big. It was like a simulated trophy. I don't know if it was a balloon or something, but it was like a big NBA trophy behind me. And he's like, "Hey man, can you take my picture? And then I'll take yours." I'm like, "Oh man, this is Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
This is great." Like I didn't even I was so in shock that I didn't even take a picture with him. So I see Charles Barkley. He had just finished with his appearance with TNT. They had just finished the show, so I had to go to Barkley and talk to him. And then he's like, "Man, I told him what he was, and he's like, "Man, so sorry, I'm not doing interviews tonight." I'm like, "No, listen, I don't want to interview. I just want to tell you about this story." And the moment I told him, his face just lit up, man. His eyes just got like he remembered the moment. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I'm talking to him about something that happened when I was a kid, and this guy was already a superstar. So that moment was $1 million moment. Who else? When I think about, I mean, because I met Kobe, obviously, rest in peace.
Yeah, man.
Magic Johnson recently. We have a very good friend in common, Magic and I. And so when I met Magic, I'm like, you know, Magic, you know, I'm good friends with this person, and he's like, and so we hit it off from there. I recently met Sandy Koufax at Dodger Stadium.
Nice.
Nolan Ryan, who had that picture
Ooh.
with my dad that I always valued, and then I met him. We actually stayed at the same hotel during the 2011 World Series. We were staying at the VIP floor. For whatever reason, they put me there without asking, and then I'm there having breakfast with Nolan Ryan, right? So I can tell you, I can go, you know, hours and hours and probably days telling you. At this point, when people ask me, because this question gets asked to me all the time, especially when I'm talking to my friends in Mexico or I meet new people, they get shocked by the fact that I'm in Hollywood and meeting all these people, right? And they always tell me, who's the biggest celebrity you've ever met? And I always tell them, you know what? It's probably easier for you to ask me if I have met that person.
Mm.
And then I will tell you if I have or not.
Yes, no,
Because,
yes, no, yeah, there's so
yeah,
many.
it's been so many, man. I remember, have you ever watched that movie? One of the biggest moments, and this is a cool, not only a great looking actress, but a cool girl. You ever watch that movie Soul Plane
Yeah,
with Snoop Dogg?
yeah.
Remember, you know, Ariel Kebbel, I think is her name. She was Tom Arnold's daughter
I
in the movie. Well, she was, the story is like Tom Arnold is flying with his family and, you know, in this very cool plane, whatever. So Ariel Kebbel was Tom Arnold's daughter in that movie, right? Great looking actress.
Okay,
So
okay, okay, okay.
we go and look her up. You'll know who I'm talking about. So my wife and I got invited through Fox to the premiere of a show called The League,
Oh,
which
okay.
was on FX.
Yeah, fantasy
It was The
football show.
League and another show called You're the Worst, which I hadn't seen before, and I became a huge fan of. So this was at this movie in Westwood by UCLA. It's a very famous movie theater that I forgot its name. It's a historic landmark, but I forgot the name of it. But anyway, um, my wife and I left our car at Fox, so we took an Uber because we were supposed to walk the red carpet, and we wanted to make sure we got driven right to the red carpet because my wife was wearing high heels. I was wearing these, very cool shoes on my own. So we just actually had someone drive us. So at the end of the premiere, we are waiting for an Uber to take us back to the Fox lot for me to get my car and go to the after party. So, and I see Ariel right there and right away. I mean, I've seen this girl in Entourage and Soul Plane, so many shows. I'm a big fan. And she sees the shoes that I'm wearing, which were a pair of Christian Louboutins with spikes. And so we're waiting for an Uber, and she actually accidentally gets in my Uber, but because she had been waiting for a while. And then she looks at me, and the first thing she looks at is my shoes. She's like, "Hey, man, those are cool shoes." So we started talking from there, and then we ride, the same Uber to the after party, and everything it was crazy. And that moment lasted for like probably 5 minutes, but at the same time, having that conversation with her and her telling me about the shoes was amazing. Pamela Anderson, I remember meeting her at a Laker game, and there was nothing in common, but I just went up to her and said hi. Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Nice.
He saw a picture for whatever reason. He saw a picture that I had on my phone of the guitar, one of my guitars. And he's like, "Dude, that's a cool looking guitar. I've never seen it before. That's a good looking guitar." And then I said I could die tomorrow because Slash, one of the top guitar players in the history of rock and roll, told me that my guitar was cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can go back and forth and then again for days and hours talking about some of the coolest people that I've met. But all I can say is that, man, I have to be humble. I had to say I've been very fortunate to meet, great people along the way.
Live in the moment, but also appreciate the moment. I'm sure you're gonna have countless more memories like that. Take a moment and enjoy the present.
Yeah.
Like live in the
Yeah, and
moment.
I promise I'll start working on the book.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. Look forward to it.
Yeah, man.
Any personal shout outs you want to do? Anybody thankful in your life?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I wouldn't be here if it was not for my dad or my wife. I mean, obviously, my dad was, always a hard worker, and he paid my way through. He paid for my school. He always made sure I got the right education. That I learned English at a young age, which has proven very valuable for me along the way. And he always showed me the right path and to do things the right way and to treat people kindly and not to forget where I came from and be an honest person, and be a nice dude. And he was there. And also my wife, we've been together for 10 years now. And she brought something that I lacked in my life, which 10 years ago, I was already a broadcaster and I was already talented. I had been doing things and whatnot, but she opened up the world for me. She showed me things that I had not seen. She inspired me to travel the world. She inspired me to look at other things besides what I was doing and to believe in myself. So I think I can tell you I wouldn't be here because, without them. And, there's so many things and there's so many people that I've met along the road. And I'm not going to share names because, there's too many of them, but I can guarantee you they know who they are. I mean, if they've helped me, I have made them, I have told them that I value what they've done for me. I'm a very thankful person that way. And that's something that my dad really instilled in me, like made sure that whenever someone does something nice for me, I thank them back. And so I am very careful about doing that. When someone has been nice to me or where someone has helped me along the way, they know they will hear from me at some point and hear thank you and try to, you know, give something back if I can.
That's beautiful. Um, so this is not a self-help podcast, but we wrap it up with a little thing called words of wisdom. It could be about anything that a favorite quote, a favorite anything, maybe some words, maybe paragraph, whatever you feel like would in your heart, something for the
Yes.
audience.
Yeah, something that I said before. If you want to get far in life, um, try to find what makes you unique. But at the same time, you know, as I said before too, success is in your own head, is in your own mind, and don't compare yourself to other person if you're happy with what you're doing, because it doesn't matter if you're a CEO or, let's say, do maintenance at a company. You can be the best at what you do, and you can be happy with what you do, and money doesn't really define, or success don't really define um, a happy journey in life. So, you know, feel proud of everything that everything that you do. Feel proud of every single moment that you made someone happy, and enjoy it, and try to live happily, and don't try to worry too much, especially now in these coronavirus times, dude. Don't worry about what happens tomorrow, what's going to happen in a year. And I understand some people are doing worse than I am, but I can tell you, so people don't feel bad. As I said, this has cost me a lot of money, and you know, I'm struggling to find ways to compensate that loss of income, right? So it's not that I'm doing it easy, or I can tell you, you know, with my hands in my waist, oh guys, you know, we'll get through this, you know, because I've been equally affected by this. But we cannot worry that much about what's going to happen tomorrow, because if we die tomorrow, we might, I don't know what's going to happen, but we might go back and say, you know what, I could have spent this day happily with my family, and having a good time, going out. Well, you can't go out right now, but having a burger uh,
Yeah.
through pickup, right, or takeout, right, or coffee, or enjoying coffee or whatever. And I didn't do it because I was too worried about tomorrow. And this life is too short, and you really have to enjoy it the fullest.
It was beautiful. I'm not sure what I expected, but it exceeded all expectations. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to come and join me. Um, ladies and gentlemen, that was Francisco X Rivera. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I just wanted to thank you, Hector. Thank you for giving me time to talk. This has been a very enjoyable chat, and anytime, man, whatever you need,
I
let me know.
appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to the book. Thank you guys for
For sure.
listening. Remember, if nobody loves you, Hector loves you. Once again, that was Francisco X Rivera. We'll see you next time.